And over there. Perfect. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Well, I guess we'll do a little introduction. This is Max Schaefer, everybody. One of the original... Where's Schaefer's hammer, right? One of the original founders of Blizzard North and Diablo 2, and then Torchlight as well, Runic Games, and everything kind of beyond there. So if you want to give yourself a better introduction and tell us a little bit of where you've been and everything, please go ahead, because we are all interested. I guarantee.
All right. All right. I think you got it pretty much right.
Okay.
I would point out that my brother would argue that the Schaefer's hammer is named after him.
Okay.
But that is incorrect. You got it right. That is incorrect.
Perfect.
But yeah, I was one of the co-founders at Blizzard North, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a lot of people don't know that we started making Diablo 1 as Condor Incorporated, our own little indie company.
Right.
And about
right.
halfway through making it, they snapped us up and we became Blizzard North.
So how did that process go? What was the to go from being Condor to Blizzard buying you out, right?
Yeah, so that was that there were some radical changes there. So we were nobody at that point. We had done a couple of really minor games prior to that. You know,
Right.
we cut our teeth on some Game Boy, Game Gear, football games, and
Nice.
and a long lost Atari Lynx game. Which most people probably don't even know what that is, but it was a kind of a color Game Boy from way back in the day.
Okay.
And Diablo was our first PC game ever.
Nice.
And the first game that we worked on that was our own design ever.
Right.
Everything prior to that was licensed in some form.
Right.
So yeah, it was at the end of the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo era, and you know, we decided we didn't want to make a bet on what was going to be the next big console, but PC is always there, so let's try to make a PC game.
Right.
And so we made up a pitch document for Diablo and a couple of other games, and wandered around the floor of the AAA, or which was CES back in the day, talking to game publishers, trying to get someone to listen to us, and pretty much got turned down by everybody, with the exception of the guys at Blizzard.
Wow.
Who understood kind of what we were saying we wanted to go for, and next thing you know, we're signed to a contract to make Diablo, and it was for a ridiculously low amount of money. It was not going to come anywhere close to funding it, but we were in.
Right. It was a start.
And we started into it, and actually with our company, we put a few other guys on another project with 3DO to make a football game that essentially funded Diablo.
All right.
Because 3DO was throwing around a lot of money at that time, and you know, so they signed us for a lot of money for the football game.
Nice.
Put a few guys on it.
Yeah.
And use that money basically to keep alive until one day, you know, and we were still check to check. You know, there were times where it was Tuesday and payroll was Friday, and we had no idea how we were going to cover it.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was total chaos and really stressful. But all of a sudden, Blizzard calls up and says, "Hey, what do you guys say we buy you out, become part of the Blizzard family?" And
that's cool.
So, yeah, we completely freaked out about that because we didn't see it coming, and you know, had never had more than a couple $100 in the bank.
Yeah.
So we of course said, of course, that sounds great, and they made us an offer, and we thought the offer was super awesome, but we thought that, you know, everybody turns down the first offer.
Right.
So I mean, it's just what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And
hey, come back with something better. We got a lot of people interested in this Diablo franchise here, and
so we made like a counter offer, and like there was the time where we like sent the counter offer over the fax machine. This was back in the days of fax machines. We sent the counter over, and that next half hour was the most stressful time of my life.
Right.
Here was a chance to have a completely life-changing event.
Yep.
And we decided to say no because it seemed like you're supposed to do that.
So when the first offer came in, were you even like, this isn't enough, or this isn't the offer we want? Or were you just
hell no.
Well, you're just like, well, you're supposed to say no, so.
Yeah, that's it. Totally. It was absolutely enough.
Wow.
And it was 20 some years ago now, so I can say we would have said yes had they not taken our counteroffer.
Wow.
But they called back after about a half hour, said, "How about we meet in between?" And we said, "Let's do it." And that was it. That was 10 years of working at Blizzard North after that.
That is absolutely awesome. So did you become Blizzard North right at that time? Was that like they bought it out and just said, "You guys are Blizzard North. That's the title we're giving you," or whatever it is?
I think we talked about what are we going to call you? Should it just be Blizzard or whatever? And we said, let's just be Blizzard North. We were up in the Bay Area while they were down in the LA area.
Gotcha.
And they always wanted us to move down and just join down there, but we weren't too into that. So we became Blizzard North, and it was it was in San Mateo, California, and that was huge though, because all of a sudden we have, Blizzard wasn't very big yet, but they certainly had more money than we did.
Right. And they had StarCraft still at that. Well, no, I guess they didn't have StarCraft yet, because this was Warcraft before 1. Diablo 1. This was Diablo. That's right. Yes, or Warcraft was the first thing that they had.
Yeah, they had. So they got some money from that. And they were actually owned by a little mom and pop educational software company at that time called Davidson and Associates.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they were making more money for Davidson and Associates than any of their educational software. So they said, "Go find us another company to make more games." And so they went out looking for someone to make a game at the same time we were pitching a game, and it just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
And we had known those guys from before that, because there's another bit of trivia. We got hired to make a Sega Genesis game called the Justice League Task Force, which was a Street Fighter clone with the DC Universe characters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Right at the end of the Sega Genesis.
Sure.
And unbeknownst to us, they had also hired someone to do the Super Nintendo version. And they didn't put us in touch at all.
They never let you guys.
It was really weird. Like, there was not a pixel of art or anything, a line of code shared between those projects. But it was to do the exact same thing.
Right.
And so we were in Vegas at the CES the year before, and showing the game, and we meet the other guys, and it turns out those are Blizzard. And they were, I think they were even still Silicon and Synapse at that time, but they were, it was those guys. And so we kind of got to know them, and we were kind of friends. So when we were out pitching games, it just kind of worked out that they actually gave us more time than anyone else, in explaining what we wanted to do with Diablo. Great. It's funny. I look back at the pitch document now, and it's just this wall of text. Nowadays, you got your PowerPoints,
right? It's all pretty. You got to make a whole presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just a wall of text in a Word document. Maybe we wrapped the text around a graphic in the middle somewhere. But that was about that. But awesome. And so they hired us on, and now we had resources to actually do the game right. Yeah. And it was actually at that point that they introduced the idea of BattleNet and making this the first game.
Right.
Be one-click play someone on the internet game.
Right. As opposed, so you guys had just designed it purely single player for
correct.
Prior. Okay.
Correct.
What are some of the other changes, honestly, that were?
Oh well. Geez. So okay. So at the very, very, very beginning, we were going to do a sort of a hybrid turn-based game. Now, since it was single player, we would have kind of the computer catching up with you, so it would almost look like a real-time game, but it was actually technically a turn-based game.
Okay.
Because we figured we'd want to be able to look at your skills and adjust your equipment and stuff, and be able to pause the game to do so.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the big changes after we got bought out. It was like, hey guys, you should. Well, actually, it was before we were bought out, but they said you guys should totally do this a real-time game. Mm-hmm. And our partner David Brevik, who I'm sure you know, went into his office and shut his door for a few days, and came out and said, "Okay, we got to go in real time now." And it was like the moment you fired up and hit a skeleton, it was like, yeah, we should have been doing that from the get-go.
Right.
So that was a big change, but really mostly it was like we really almost started over, because the scope of the game could be much bigger now. We weren't on a milestone schedule to get it done before we ran out of money.
Right.
And then with all the BattleNet stuff, it that was all in development at the time, so it gave us some extra time. So really the biggest thing is it gave us the resources and the time to make it what it was. It would have been a much different game if we had to kick it out in that $300,000 contract.
Oh, I can imagine. So with the addition of like BattleNet, how was that all developed? I mean,
That was all done down at Blizzard
okay,
headquarters down in
okay,
Irvine,
so
and
they developed that.
they had the vision to create this platform where, prior to that, to play someone in another country on the internet, you had to type in IP addresses, and it was a big nightmare.
Yeah.
It was really kind of only the nerdliest of people would do it.
Right.
And I think they had the realization that this internet gaming thing is going to be huge, and it should be super easy, and that they could make it so you could just click a button and you're playing with the whole BattleNet community in whatever game we were making at the time. They saw that this was going to be for all the future games as well.
Yeah. And was Warcraft, did that have a BattleNet? I don't know if I played Warcraft 1, honestly. I think I started at Warcraft 2.
Yeah, I don't think BattleNet was out at that point.
Okay. So that was
we were the first one. You were the first BattleNet game.
First BattleNet game. That's cool.
Although they get all the credit for it. Yeah. That was,
right. Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah. Of course. Whatever. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, continue from there. Now that you've been bought out, you've got this, you've started building out Diablo 1 release, things like that.
So yep. And so we're making the game, and we're still not known by anybody, nobody knows about what we're doing.
Yep.
We're toiling in total anonymity. I remember at one point we thought that, a really good projection is if we sell 100,000 copies, that would constitute a hit.
Okay.
And that was sort of where the expectations were at the time. But this was also at the same time that Windows was coming out, and becoming you had to have Windows.
Yeah.
And so it was also back in the days of magazines, and they did a promo for the new Windows that had a couple game demos on it, and they approached us and said, "Hey, why don't you put your demo of Diablo on this disc that goes out?" And they went out, and it turns out they put out millions of these discs.
Oh wow.
And it was just promoting their new Windows stuff. Yeah. And so like kind of overnight everything changed then, because everyone's playing the demo, because it was one of like a few demos on the disc, and it was probably the only good one.
Right.
And it just seemed like overnight, boom, this is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And that was a completely foreign feeling for any of us.
Right.
And a surprise, and we still didn't really know what that meant. It's like, okay, people are liking our demo, and we're suddenly getting all these phone calls and stuff and things. But it was still, just head down and keep working on this project and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And it was a slog. These games are hard to make.
Right.
ARPG with these sort of loot systems and having the feel of it all it's just hard, and nothing comes easy.
Yep.
So we slogged through it, and one day it was pretty much done, and we put it out, and it kind of exploded, and all of a sudden there's tons and tons of people playing, and we didn't have anywhere near enough servers ready for it. And so there was, it was sort of a bungled rollout. It's like, holy shit, get more servers. And
which
then, like,
still
we didn't
today,
get enough servers.
Still today, every game that seems to release, there's always the servers crash at the start.
Yep.
And
Yep. And it was just like, get more servers, and then get more and more servers. And then
Wow.
it's still not even close. But sure enough, we kind of got it all under control.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, something else happened that we didn't foresee at all. That's that people started to cheat, and it hadn't even dawned on us that that we would be popular enough that anyone would bother cheating.
Right? Why would anyone want to cheat in this game? Like, it's just a random game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a random thing. Maybe people like hitting skeletons in our game.
Yeah.
And but all of a sudden they're cheating, and oh my god, it was like this greatest thing in the world, but now it's all collapsed.
Right.
And because the cheating got worse and worse. At first it was like, someone has figured out how to kill a monster with one hit. But the next thing people are killing other players in town without any notice at all. And people are like, this game sucks.
Right. So
so
how did you guys deal with that? I mean,
oh god, so it was partly the architecture of the game. It was not a client server game. It was a peer-to-peer game.
Right.
And basically at that point, BattleNet was mostly just a matchmaking service.
Yep.
And so it would match the players, and it would run on your two machines, and one of your two machines would have authority, whoever made the game. And it made it exceptionally easy to cheat because it was your machine that was deciding.
You set the rules. Yeah.
Right. And so, it was like a debate. I remember that it was sort of a question of how much do we even try to fix this versus what are we going to do next game so this doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
It's like maybe we just abandon. It was actually our initial intent to not do Diablo 2 right after Diablo 1, it was, we were thinking we were going to do something else.
Yeah.
That was kind of a slog getting through that game, and it was cool, but we want to make something else.
Right.
And but that plus we didn't have another good idea. We kind of just looked at each other and said, yeah, we got to make Diablo 2. and this time do it right, knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
And
build
make
it to actually be client server and
be a client server and more cheat proof, obviously. As it turns out, people are very, very clever about their cheating.
Truth.
And they still figured out ways, but at least it was contained.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was one of the reasons we launched right away into making Diablo 2 after that.
Was just to say, hey guys, we understand that there's cheating and all this stuff, but there's another thing coming that's gonna prevent all this.
Although we were very careful of making promises about,
not prevent all this.
Yeah.
That's going to improve the potential. So Diablo 1 is still P2P then?
Yes.
Is that okay? So you still have, so that was just like, I mean, I guess at that point you just said, if you're cheating, you're cheating, right? Like, don't join games with people that are cheating or something. Was that the?
Yeah, it became more like, hey guys, we made this service so you can play with your friends.
Right.
It doesn't mean that everyone that you click on the internet is going to be a nice person and play with you in a productive way. So use it for your friends and have a great time.
Interesting. Interesting. So then you get the move.
Which by the way, we returned to for Torchlight.
Okay. So it's back to
just because if you set the expectation, then it's okay. This is a service, a multiplayer service for you and your friends.
Right.
And it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but yeah, that started Diablo 2, and then the development of Diablo 2 was actually fairly nightmarish. It was a death slog. Like we realized pretty early on that we've gotten ourselves in over our heads on kind of the scope of the game that we were making. And of course, it turned out to be late, and I swear we crunched at the end of that project for like a whole year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and like 7 days a week, dark to, with the time you get up till the time you go to bed. That type of just horrible crunch. I wouldn't do that nowadays. I would accept a lesser product. Just because, and I think everyone on it would. We realized that that was a mistake. We should have just either taken longer, scaled it back, or something, because people were physically breaking down. They were getting divorces and breaking up with their girlfriends. And it was like, God, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we even doing? But that was all. It's all part of the learning process of like how to make games, and no one had done anything like these things before. And I think to this day we're still kind of making it up as we go along.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a learning episode of how things can go wrong in development that's actually going well. Because the development actually went well. We do all the time. At no point was the game sucking, or we were thinking this is going to be a bomb or anything.
Right.
It was just like we had kind of set out these goals for the game and how big it was going to be, and we were going to grind through it no matter how long it takes. And polish it up.
Yep.
And it took a lot longer than we all thought. And it was all, of course it was worth it in the end, but I wouldn't do that again.
But yeah, exactly. Looking back, not again at all.
Yeah.
So what was the vision then at the start, right? You come out of Diablo 1 and you say, wow, we just put something out that we thought was going to sell 100,000 copies for a hit. And how many did it end up selling? I mean, a ton.
It at that point, it was clear it was going to go well over 1 million.
Wow. So
which was at that point was a monster hit. If you sell 1 million of your $48 PC boxes, back then, that was just a giant crazy monster hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think to date it's probably up around 2-3 million at least.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm sure at least that.
They still sell those things.
Yeah. We still buy Diablo 2. So.
For sure.
So you have that and you see, wow, this is actually huge. We need to make another one of these and improve. Yep. What is the vision for improvement there? What did you want to put out in Diablo 2 that Diablo 1 didn't have?
So aside from being client server, so that it was at least marginally secure.
Right.
We wanted to get outside. That was like the first goal. It's like, okay, the whole game of Diablo was down in these dungeons under the church. Yep. And there was outside for the town, but it wasn't really part of the game. So we want to play outside. So that was kind of one of the first goals. And the second was we want to go to all kinds of. We don't want to just be in one little town of Tristram with the with the church. We want to go all over the world and find kind of just cherry pick all the cool looking places in the world and make some sort of town and levels loosely based on that. We're just basically scouring the internet for cool pictures of cool looking places. Just because you can make anything, you're not we're not constrained to any sort of actual lore, so it's like, where do you want to go? Let's go to the rainforest. And I think we were early on we set the standard for RPGs that the first level is sort of the Irish countryside, the second level is in the desert, and then the third level you go into some sort of rainforest or something like that. So that was kind of the second goal, and then the third goal was let's just really expand on the whole item loot randomness system, make all new character types. We always wanted to have new character types, and the goal on the character types was always that it was a kind of a concept that our old producer named Matt Householder coined. It was he called it familiar novelty. So it would be you could look at that character and it would feel like you've seen that before, but it really hasn't been in anything. It's nothing like you've seen, but you can kind of just tell by looking at it what it is and what it does, and what kind of character that's going to be. So that was sort of the goal with the character types. You could just look at him and say, okay, I know what that guy does.
That guy even though it doesn't raises the dead. That guy is a big just tank. That guy, that girl.
Even though it isn't just like knight and mage and whatever. It was always a twist on it.
Okay. So
beyond that, it was just let's make more cool places to hit monsters and find cool.
Right. So you specifically worked a lot with background and stuff, right? And the design of all of the acts, I'm guessing, and just all of that. So were you even more?
And at that point, it was also we were growing as a company, and there were business duties all of a sudden, business and management duties.
Right.
So I did work on some of the backgrounds for Diablo 2, a lot of the Act 1 stuff, a little bit of Act 2.
Okay.
But a lot of that was carried by Dave Glenn, who was our director at the time, who was way better at it than I was. Definitely was a relief to be able to turn it over to him.
Yeah, hand it off at that point and go, oh, phew, thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what were some of your favorite changes that you brought into D2, or what? And then another one. What were some of the changes that you were going to bring into Diablo 2 that never got implemented? Or some of the acts or something that you just said, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, we didn't have enough of those things that we decided not to put in.
That's why you had the 7 days. I guess.
Yeah, hence the death march. But I think that when you go back and play Diablo 1 after playing Diablo 2, part of it was like, oh my God, I'm moving so slowly.
Yes.
I'm doing this little walk around.
Oh, the walking.
So it was nice in Diablo 2 to be able to feel like you're traversing the countryside. You really couldn't feel like you were traversing the countryside in Diablo 1. Like you could get across a field in 15-20 minutes, but you move fast enough in Diablo 2 to get to feel like you're going somewhere, going down a path to some cool thing. And so just it felt freeing. It felt like it was less claustrophobic, and there wasn't just another different looking set of walls that were confining rooms down there, like Diablo 1 got after a while. So it was just to be able to create all these different worlds, and even within the worlds, you could just make up a whole new thing for the dungeon, whatever dungeon you were in. It's let's do the bug caves or whatever it is, and just kind of insert it in. So it was a lot of fun to make, and it was a lot of fun to show at game shows and stuff, because you get to show people the new stuff you're working on. So I mean, a lot of it was really, really fun and really cool, and I think that it did fulfill a lot of what we wanted to do in the game, and what wasn't there, we were able to actually do an expansion. For one of the few times in my career. And get a lot of the things that we didn't get in the first time.
Okay.
But yeah. I mean, it pretty much came out. We didn't leave a lot out on the table after that.
Yeah. And how many of the patches and balance changes and all those things did you guys have a part of as it kind of went along?
A lot of them.
Okay.
So I think that I think 109 was the big rune word one.
Is it 110 or 109? I always forget
1.9.
which one.
Yeah, it was one of those two.
Yeah.
I think that was probably that was the most significant one, and that was mostly done by Peter who is still in the biz.
Okay.
But yeah, really cool patch on that one. That really extended that. I think that did a lot to address the fact that people kind of finish your content after a while.
Yeah.
And you need new things for them to do.
Yeah.
And really extended the life of the game, and it sort of changed the way we thought about making these sorts of games after that. It's like you need sort of a meta game after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to churn through however much content you make.
They will
really depressingly quickly.
They'll get to level 99 way too quickly, and so that was also when that got dropped to insanity levels of getting to 99.
Yep. So and then it just kind of took on its life after that. Honestly, we moved on pretty quickly in house to making the next things.
Yep.
We did the expansion. After the expansion, we're like, well, we're gonna split our company into two teams.
Right.
Which, by the way, is always a traumatic time in any company.
Yes.
And half the team was going to start under the Diablo 3, and half of the team was going to make something else. And for a while, the other team that was doing something else was going to make. It was one of our goals to make a Diablo type game, but sci-fi version.
Interesting.
And it was sort of the same thing that the Warcraft guys did, and they made StarCraft.
Right.
And so we codenamed this new game that they were working on Starblow.
Starblow?
And Starblow. It was like Diablo, but it was Starblow.
Starblow. Okay.
It was Starblow.
Okay.
And so they were working on that, and half our team was working on Diablo 3. That went on for a little over a year, and things started to go weird with the corporate ownership, and that was about the time that a bunch of us decided to jump ship and start a new thing.
Interesting. So what was that brings up a lot of questions. So the first one is, which were you on? Were you on the Starblow team or the Diablo 3 side?
It was D3.
You were on the
Diablo
D3
3
side. All right. So what was that vision there?
Okay. It was going to be an MMO. It was very much going to be like an action RPG, Diablo control MMO style game. And we were like the first year into it, so it wasn't we weren't that far into it.
Right.
And we were writing our own new engine and the whole thing. So it was just getting going, really. And we really didn't have a whole lot in and working yet. You could run around and kill monsters and stuff, but there really wasn't a whole lot of meat to the whole design yet.
Sure.
By the time we left, so
sure.
That pretty much put an end to that project at that point.
Right.
We left with, I think 9 of us left when we just left the company, and then over time we kind of trickled we basically took the best 17 guys that were there with us over to a new.
Okay.
And so that all happened. Basically, we were fine with the Blizzard guys. The problems we were having were people above the corporate ownership at that time.
Right.
They were there was shenanigans going on with their accounting, and they were dangling the whole software unit to sell to somebody. And so we would come into work and read that, it looks like Vivendi is going to sell this whole unit to Microsoft. The next day we'd come in and say, it looks like EA is the leading bidder for this new thing. And we was like, this is kind of weird to be hearing on Yahoo News, big at the time.
Right.
This is weird to be hearing on Yahoo News, not from anyone, in the company telling us about all this stuff. And given that Blizzard was the most valuable unit that was being sold there, some of these buyers might like to know that the entire management of these companies would not work for them. And so we got into this big dispute of you guys got to involve us in this sale.
Right.
You have to be in on the talks and see if there's going to be a cultural fit and if this is all going to work. Because it was big money was being bandied about for this. Yeah. And
you're selling us.
They're selling us. Yeah. Exactly. And so you couldn't actually talk to anyone at Vivendi. So you basically run it up the flagpole and wait, and so you said, you guys got, so it was like, yeah, you guys got to involve us in the sale. And, it goes up the flagpole. A couple days later, it comes back. The message was just like, no. Yeah, that's it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so it was about that time we said, guys, we're just getting other people rich, and And all we need to do this business is a desk and a computer.
Yeah.
So what is this French water and power company providing for us anyway?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we took off and started. We started a new company at that point, and it was the ill-fated Flagship Studios, and we made Hellgate London.
Yeah.
And we learned exactly how not to make a game, and exactly all the things that can go wrong in the course of development, which was actually super valuable to know also.
Always learning, right?
But yeah, exactly. So off we go, and we made Hellgate London, and part of that project was spinning up a Seattle team to make a test game that was, because we had to make all our own MMO infrastructure for this new game. And so we just wanted a simple little game to run through the pipes just to test a lot of stuff. So we hired this group in Seattle to make it for us.
Right.
And the little game they were making was called Mythos at the time. And that turned out to be super fun, like right off the bat. So we kind of changed plans and said, okay, this also has to be a full project, that we're going to sell this and this is going to be a thing.
Right.
And so they staffed up a little bit, and then everything kind of collapsed. We had trouble on every front. And we had to shut the company down.
Wow.
And laid everybody off, and that was it. And we kind of got together and said, hey, you know what, we had it was too big a company in San Francisco to try to resurrect it. It was over 100 employees. And, that's a hell of a big company.
Yeah.
But the group in Seattle was a really tight group of 14 guys that we could kind of reconstitute and get something going. And because it was kind of a self-contained team, they had everything to make a game.
Yeah.
And it was just a whole lot cheaper to do. And we really liked those guys. So we approached them and said, hey, you guys want to get this going again and hang in here until we get some funding? And they all said for sure. We kicked some money in so that they could get their paychecks for a little while, and got to work on getting a deal going real fast, and that became Runic Games, and we made Torchlight.
Yep. So what was a lot of, I have actually never played Torchlight personally. Shame on me. I know everybody in my chat yells at me for not having played Torchlight. Torchlight and Grim Dawn. They always say, "Why don't you play those? Like, you'll love them so much more."
Yeah, they're both good.
Yeah. So what was the vision, I guess, going into Torchlight? Because a lot of people say that did come a lot from Diablo 2.
Of course. It is an action RPG, but originally, so Mythos, the little game we were making, was also a Diablo-esque action RPG at Flagship Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And when that all crashed and burned, it was our original goal was like, hey, let's get this group back together and just get back to where we were with Mythos.
Okay.
And so the original idea was kind of to make an MMO, but then quickly kind of realized that that's pretty ambitious for a brand new startup and we don't have funding yet. So we kind of pitched the idea of making a single player game just to get the IP out there, to get something out quickly and make some money for the studio so that we can go on and make the next thing. And so we took about 11 months. We bought all our own equipment out of liquidation because we had to liquidate the Flagship Studios.
Yeah.
And so they went to a liquidator in Seattle, and we approached the liquidator and said, can we buy it all back? And he said, sure. We bought it all back. And just set right up across the street from where we were. And and started into it. And we went from like blank wiped computers to shipping Torchlight 1 in 11 months. So
wow.
Just a crazy slog. But it was a single player game, a lot easier to make.
Right.
But still it was just like a frantic 11 months of let's get something out and on the shelf.
Yeah.
Make some money so we can really run with this again.
Right.
And it was sort of a weird parallel. We went from making Torchlight 1 to making the bigger multiplayer version in Torchlight 2.
Yep.
And that was a bigger project, but it was also super fun. But during that time, it was pretty clear that those guys didn't want to make an MMO and make a games as service thing. So the MMO never happened. But but we got Torchlight and Torchlight 2 out, and so that was a really fun, really cool run too. Really great group.
So is there an MMO in your future? Is that something? Because you seem like you keep coming back to it. Like we're gonna get this MMO. We're gonna get this MMO.
Well, unfortunately, Runic has closed down by this point. But I left about 18 months ago.
Okay.
and started a new company here in San Francisco.
Right.
And we are working on something along those lines right now that I'm not able to talk about.
Beautiful. And which company is that you're currently working for?
Oh, it's called Extra Games.
Extra
Um,
Games.
Extra Games Inc. We are in San Francisco. We're up to about 30 people now. Got some
Nice.
great industry vets. A lot of the old Diablo 2 team is back together.
Ooh.
We got Matt Ullman on the music again. We got David Glenn, our background art director. We got Tyler Thompson, who was the project lead on the Lord of Destruction expansion. Guy Somberg, who has worked on it. We got a bunch of guys that worked on Diablo. We got some of the Runic guys. So it's kind of a star-studded group of guys, but we've been toiling in anonymity for 2 years. We're going to announce. We don't have a time that we're going to announce yet. Definitely this year, but whether it's summer or fall or even later spring, we don't know yet. We haven't really figured that all out. but it's gonna be soon, which is why when you said, "Hey, come on my thing," I was like, maybe I should come out of my cave finally and start engaging the world again.
My chat already wants to buy whatever that game is. They don't even. They want it now. That is what everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So whenever you are ready to leak that game or announce that game, let me know. Because we have a lot of people that love Diablo 2 and love everybody from that team that would be all over it.
I will absolutely come back here when we're ready, and I can't wait to do it because it's a lot of fun. I mean, what we're making is just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I'm okay. Well, no leaks for now. No leaks for now. Yeah. I won't push that any further. So another question that I know everybody in my chat is gonna, of course, want to ask is: Diablo 3 has come out, and
yes, it has,
and they would love to hear your opinions. I've already given mine on the game. They'd love to hear your opinions on it. I know you probably still want to be respectful and all of that of it, but
yeah, I can be perfectly honest about it. First of all of Torchlight development was in the shadow of this looming Diablo 3.
Right.
So when we were starting, even the single player Torchlight 1. Diablo 3 had been in development for seemingly forever.
Right.
And so people said, "You're crazy. Why are you making an ARPG in a Diablo style when Diablo 3 is going to come out and just destroy everything?"
Right.
Right. And so we were like, well, we can't really control what happens out in the world. We just got to do our things and hope for the best. And it became clear with Torchlight 1 that we were going to beat Diablo 3 out.
Yeah.
It was unknown at that point that we were actually going to beat, if we were going to beat them for Torchlight 2. In fact, we didn't beat them, but we actually were helped because they had a fairly rocky launch, as you know.
Yep.
And it definitely reflected well on Torchlight 2, so that was kind of an opportune thing for us. But anyway, it's such a weird thing to evaluate, because like literally nobody that worked on Diablo 2 worked on Diablo 3,
right,
except for maybe one or two people for a little bit of the project.
Right.
So it was really just a whole new team working on it. And so I played it when it first came out. And my first emotion was kind of relief that it didn't totally suck. And I hadn't even gone to an auction house yet. I hadn't done anything yet. I'm just wandering around looking at stuff. It's like, okay, it's smooth. These look like Diablo characters. The controls feel pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, this is where everything is going to be okay. It's not going to destroy the legacy of our game. We're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then, obviously you dig into it more and you're like, well, why did they do that? And what's this? And then the auction house thing was just like a facepalm thing like that. I mean, it's like, what are you guys doing? Okay. Because, not only did the auction house just kind of cause its own foreseeable problems.
Yep.
But they had to tune the whole item game in the actual game to work with the auction house.
Right.
And that's not what Diablo is. Diablo is not about supporting an auction house. It's about the loot hunt. It's about going out and hitting monsters and finding stuff.
Right.
So they kind of undermine their own loop on it.
Yep.
So they made some distressing things that we would have done differently, I like to put it.
Sure.
Early on, and that actually was also kind of a relief to us because we were able to point to things in Torchlight 2 and say, well, hey, we're not doing that, so come on by.
Yeah, come on. Swing on over. We don't have this.
Yeah, but at the same time, it sold extremely well. Diablo 3 was huge, and it brought kind of a whole new generation of people into learning about this style of games and all the other games and the other alternatives that were in the space.
Right.
And I will give Blizzard a lot of credit for addressing a lot of the problems that were in the game at the beginning and making it a much better experience now than it was the day it came out.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. And their production values at Blizzard are always top notch.
Right.
The animation is nice, the backgrounds are beautiful and painterly, and they at some point during the Diablo 3 development, people were complaining that it was just too rainbow colorful and everything, and I think they reeled that in a little bit, and and so it looks good, but I don't know. It's Diablo 3. I don't play it. I respect that they did it, and I'm glad they did it. I think a lot of guys took a lot of trouble for it that didn't really deserve it. Those guys are working hard on this thing, and they got a lot of trouble for a game that sold like 30 million copies or whatever it has so far. Right.
It's one of the top selling games of all time.
Right. And, like ever. So it's like we can sit here criticizing it, but they kind of got the last laugh on that.
Right.
But anyhow, so I still like guys over at Blizzard. They're even the guys on that team. I would say I'm friendly with. So it's not something I would have made, and it's not something that I play now. But I respect that it is a quality game, and I respect that it did justice in the grand scheme to the Diablo franchise.
I think that's a good answer. And I agree with a lot of that. I really do. I mean, once again, you look at it and you go, how much can you really crap on a game that just sold 30 million copies or whatever? Right. And even though it doesn't always have that same reflection of Diablo 2 in some aspects, overall, it's a decent game. It's very.
And I think it probably brought new people to Diablo 2.
Yes, I agree. So speaking of other alternatives, what are some of your favorite alternatives to Diablo? Or Diablo 3, Diablo 2, whatnot?
Oh, in that genre, I love the whole Path of Exile story. Not just the fact that these unknown guys from New Zealand, where do you get video game talent in New Zealand? Right. We're able to just kind of scrap themselves together and make this very credible game, and turn it into something big now, kind of out of nothing. Super cool. So that's kind of my favorite story of the Diablo style games. And fortunately, because they come out to GDC all the time, we've become friends with them. So
nice.
We always go out drinking with the Grinding Gear guys when they come to GDC every year. So it turns out they're also super cool. So
that's super fun.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
But the Grim Dawn, and there's good things, there's good aspects about all these games, even some of the Korean MMOs. Every game you see something in it, you're like, we should have done that. That they took that way further than we did, and that's cool.
Right.
I don't think any of them are. Again, I don't play any of them obsessively, so they didn't really suck me in. But that's rare. I can't get sucked into games anymore these days. There's just isn't enough hours in the day. Yeah. And and we're busy making our own thing, I should be paying attention to that.
Yeah, that's true.
So other than that, I did get sucked into Minecraft for a long time. Played a lot of that. But right now, so since we've gotten this last project going, we've set ourselves a fairly ambitious schedule for it. Yeah. Like I say, we're about 2 years into it now, and we're getting to where we're thinking of announcing. So that's taken pretty much, all our time.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
But I check out everything that comes out. Oh
yeah.
Any new type of game that comes out that's super hot, you got to check it. I've watched a lot of PUBG streams, and I usually watch streams now when I want to learn about a game, just because I can get in, see what's cool about it, get out, and get on with my day.
So is your game going to be Diablo Battle Royale? Is that the?
Listen, if you're making a game right now and not experimenting with a battle royale, you're making a mistake.
It's true. It is 100%.
I think every game can be made more profitable with a battle royale.
Yeah. Mode. Path of Exile did the funny April Fool's version of it. Did you see that?
Yeah, Yeah, and it backfired on them because people liked it.
Yeah, people liked it. Now they're like, we want battle royale. So now they're having to figure out how to implement that into the game.
Yep, yep. And they're, and I know that half the guys at that office are like, we are not doing battle royale.
Yeah.
And the other guys are like, what are you talking about?
Like, everybody wants it. Free money. Exactly. So what are some of the coolest, because I mean, you've watched a ton of different games. You've played a ton of different games, I'm sure. What are some of the coolest features that you've seen in games where you just go, wow, how have I never thought about that before?
Oh man, that's a tough question. There's again, it's like travel. I say when you go to another country, there's always something they do better than you.
Right.
Things there that annoy you.
Right.
So you see something in almost every game that's cool, but like just like big mechanics. Like I don't think anyone thought about how Portal works, before there was Portal.
Right.
And it was just like, hey, that's really, really super clever.
Right.
And then when Minecraft came out, and it was like, hey, this is a beautiful procedural universe you can make with little blocks, and you kind of stand back on a mountain and it looks like this beautiful, gorgeous place. It's like, yeah, I wish we had done that. It would have saved a lot of time. We always seem to figure out the hard way to do things.
Right.
And we always say if we were really clever, we would have just made Tetris and been done with it in a weekend. But the only way we know how to make games is grinding effort for years.
It seems like you're still in that right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's still all we know how to do. Geez, you games come along the time and you say, well, why didn't we think of that? Why didn't I think of that? And it was I think like a good example is the PUBG and Fortnite, the battle royale games right now. It's just like PUBG got huge super faster than those guys, orders of magnitude faster than those guys themselves even thought it would get.
Right.
Because it was just like this perfect confluence of bite-sized game style, the perfect game length,
Yep.
the perfect mechanic to enforce it,
Yep.
an incredibly streamable game, just like the perfect storm for a modern breakout hit.
Yeah.
To the point where it didn't even have to have the best production value. So it didn't have to have the best art in the world or whatever. It was just so damn compelling what was happening.
Right.
That you couldn't turn away. You
Right.
had to watch another game and to see what's happening. And so I love when that happens. Someone just does something simple. It's just like, you guys are all blowing it over there with your high effort games. This is what we should be doing. Oh yeah. Now everyone spend hundreds of millions of dollars trying to make the next battle royale game.
Right. And I agree with that. It's a beautiful concept. I mean, that's the idea. And they've, it's in like alpha, whatever, and there are bugs and, all that stuff, but it just didn't even matter because like you said, they crunched down on the important things, length of time, the right scenario, bringing in the first person shooter, which a lot of people really enjoy. And it was just the perfect storm.
Yep. And you don't have to devote your life to it. You can play for 20 minutes and play one game. You can play all night.
Right.
It fits modern lifestyles. I don't know. It just seems like that, they got good enough game developers and then good enough guys that kind of understand the world on that team.
Right.
To put it together.
Right.
So very cool. Good for them.
Yeah.
I wish I thought I could think of something that was, just so clever that you could do it in a matter of months and be done.
Well, maybe just take a little more time, but you've already put out some great games, and I'm sure that this next one, all of us believe it'll be amazing. Fingers crossed.
Fingers are crossed. We're in that stage where we're hopeful because it's fun to play right now. You can launch in and play and do things and have a great time for hours. But there's so much left to do that it's daunting, but this is the way it is in every game because you kind of learn how to make the game as you go. So like in Diablo 2, for example, like 3/4 of the way through the game, we were maybe done with Act 1.
Wow. and then it was just tack on all the
Act 2 went faster, and then the Act 3 went faster than that, and it was just like, we got good at making them so we could make it all faster.
Right.
But like you're sitting there 3/4 of the way through, and we only have 25% of the game done.
Right.
So it kind of freaks you out. But then you buckle down and you learn what you learn. You basically learn how to make the game during that first period.
Right.
And so we're kind of through that now and into the point now where we can put a lot of stuff in. And there's enough in now that like if you don't play the game every day, it's going to be hard to even catch up on what's gone in. And that's really fun time in a game where you kind of go in the morning, get the latest build, fire it up, and see all kinds of new stuff.
Yeah.
And that some of it's like I didn't even know anyone was working on that.
Right.
And here it is. So it's a really fun time of the game development, but it's also right at kind of the beginning of where we're going to have to forget about friends and recreation and stuff like that for the next several months.
Oh, jeez.
Because I can tell you, I'm probably getting in trouble, but there will be an online component game.
Nice.
And so, sometime well before actual release, we will be doing testing in the public, and so that also is a whole new phase where now the game is out, we're talking about it, people are playing it.
Yep.
And, that, like, we have to actually be able to make stuff during that time.
Right.
And that's really hard because you're paying attention to what people are saying, you're fixing their bugs.
Yep.
You're, studying their behavior.
Yep.
But at the same time, you're also having to be putting content in at a much faster rate than you have been for months.
Right. And honestly, from my side and from the look, like you were talking about before, the guys at Grinding Gears, I think they do a really good job of that sort of watching, observing feedback, adjusting based on that, and then additionally adding in new content along the way.
Totally.
So I don't know if that's a model that you guys are maybe gonna try and emulate, or because you know them, and I don't know if that's something, but.
Yeah, we know them, and we've talked actually a lot about that. They've talked a lot about their updates, what they've learned about doing updates.
Yeah. They've
gotten it now. They've done it long enough and are good at it enough now that they can actually give a date for when the next update is. Right when the existing update is coming out. Yeah, so they can say literally 2.5 months there will be the next update, and then 2.5 months after that will be the next one. And that's. You really have to have your stuff together to be able to predict and confidently do that and execute on that.
Yeah.
So we totally have learned from them. We're also sort of in the same corporate umbrella as the Cryptic guys, and they make the game Neverwinter.
Okay.
Which is a totally different kind of standard style MMO game. But,
yeah.
They've given us a ton of advice on, like, again, the same sort of thing, like how to schedule your updates and what should be in each update and what you need to be looking at, and how to respond to player requests and problems, and when you do that as opposed to content updates. And so fortunately we've gotten a lot of really good advice on how to approach that, because for all the trillion years that I've been in the game business, I've never worked on a live game.
Right.
Something that you can actually fix other than a bug patch or two,
right.
is going to be new for a lot of us, actually, on the team. We have some people that have, not many. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be helpful though, having the people from Neverwinter just right over there, because that's
for sure.
I mean, that's just got to be huge, getting that advice and everything.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, and they've been very cool with us, especially like on here's a really easy set of things that you need to track to just have any analytics that you'd want in your game,
right?
Just to figure out who's killed what and was where, and
right,
and all those little bits of information that you like to know. They've kind of boiled it down to just the very simple logs that you have to keep to be able to analyze that, and how to analyze that. And so that's huge.
Yeah.
We hire animators and quest designers and all these other things, but not a whole lot in the way of analyzing metrics and stuff like that. So they've given us a huge boost on it, which is cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I just had a question that just.
The other thing is we also have in our office, we share our office with the guys who make Subnautica: Unknown Worlds.
Yes.
I don't know if you know about that.
Yes.
That game. Really fun, really cool guys, and we've been friends with them forever. So when we were just starting up, they let us stay in their start in their office when we had like 3 guys.
Right.
They said, "Hey, we got office space, come work with us." And then so that was super cool. And so we worked in that office, and then like, okay, we're going to go get a big office because we're making this big company, and it was just pretty much around the block from them. And but at that point, we didn't have anywhere near enough guys to fill up our office. So we said, "Hey guys, bail this office and come over and work with us in our new office because it's nicer."
Yeah.
We got a full kitchen and all this stuff. So come on over here. So they moved in with us, and they've been with us ever since.
That's awesome.
But it's really nice though, because you have a totally different experience. Guys that fresh look at what you're talking about. Great to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
And Subnautica for what kind of game it is, sort of did operate as a live service also. They were in early access for years, but it was really just kind of their way of making a single product be an ongoing revenue stream and sort of a live service. A lot of what they did those years was listen to people and make changes and add stuff, and very much like you would do if you were operating save. So it's been great to have them around too.
Yeah.
The very, very cool guys also.
So were you able to give some development tips almost to the Subnautica folks, and maybe like play it in early stages and say we didn't like this, and things like that? Was that
we check out each other's stuff and talk and about everything, and a lot of tech stuff, and totally. We're fans of their game and they're fans of ours, and we're right. I mean, we're literally right there in the office, so we can see what they're doing.
Perfect.
And so actually I get to go over and look and see what they're making that's the next thing, and that's unannounced. But they're definitely you'll want to pay attention to those guys for sure.
Okay. So any leaks for their stuff, I'll come to you, and any leaks for your stuff, I'll go to them, and it'll be perfect.
I've already said too much.
Yeah.
I've already said too much.
That's super cool though. So for your upcoming game, what's once again, without going into too much, I don't want to get you in trouble. What's it look like for maybe like a beta for I mean, what are you guys planning on having that for like a long time? Is it going to be one of these pre-release alpha games that sits in that like Subnautica for a few years? Or are you guys trying to get more of that finished product out pretty quick and then have it, go through patch updates and things?
So our current plan, and the plans change, the current plan is to try to be in front of people fairly early and fairly often, just so that we can learn about our own game more. Sometimes it's you got to weigh like, what does it make sense to because once we're in front of people, it's public, so we have to announce before we start that.
Yeah.
But we want to do that early. But do you want to announce so far before the game's out? So we're kind of weighing all these factors right now.
When do you build the hype?
But there will definitely be time where people are months and months and months.
Okay.
Where people are playing our game before it's released.
Okay. I like that.
I can say that. I gotta be very careful.
I don't want to get you in trouble again.
I gotta remember, I can't just say everything. It's been a while since I've done this. You might get something out of me.
Yeah. You can type whatever you need over there. I'm sure I'll keep it. Okay, so
this isn't live, right? This is going to be taped, right?
Yeah.
You can edit this.
I'll edit it later for sure. Yeah, it'll be great. So going back to Diablo 2. Because we are a Diablo 2 stream loving family community, everything.
I actually have watched now, because I was going to come on this. I've watched a couple of these streams, and you guys have taken Diablo 2 to a level that none of us have ever envisioned, for sure.
Yeah. So with speedrunning and all that,
I was like, I'm watching, and like I understood some of the words you said.
Yeah, we've definitely grabbed it and taken it as far as we can, or we're trying to, trying to push the limits on it every time. But I want to hear just more about your sort of like, I don't know, cool trivia about it, cool things that we could know about it, ideas that you had that throughout. I mean, all sorts of just Diablo 2,
Right. So, I mean, everyone knows about the cow level, and the cow level came about because in Diablo 1, there was just started this weird rumor that there was a cow level.
Right.
That there was an actual cow level, because there was a cow.
Yeah.
So there was got to be a cow level, and the rumor, and we were mischievous people at the time, so we like to stoke these rumors whenever they happened.
Right.
And so, it was like early on in Diablo 2, it's like, we got to save time to make a cow level at the end, just to make that come true. Sure enough, we made the cows, and we stood them up on their hind legs. And, went around the office and got each person to give their best moo.
To moo into it. Yeah. Yeah.
And so almost everyone in the game's moo is represented, and I mean, everyone in the company's voice is represented in the cow level.
Right.
And God, there's some other cool stuff, like I was the zombie voice. I don't know if that's out there. The zombie growl.
Right. Yeah.
I could probably try to do it. It might not come out right. It hurts the throat to do.
Well,
but
let's give it a try.
Let me see if I can pull it.
Wow.
Something like that.
Clapping. Chat. That is amazing. Every time I kill a zombie, I'll think of you now.
Nice.
I'll think of bashing your head in.
And I remember in Diablo 1, we were trying to figure out how to do a skeleton crashing apart sound. And it was Matt Ullman was not only our music guy, he was the sound effects, he was all sounds. And we came out with the best. What sounded most like a skeleton was to hold like a whole handful of pencils over a table and just drop it.
Right.
And that sounded recorded exactly like bones dropping. And that went into the game. That was the
so that's a skeleton dying. Yeah.
That was a skeleton dying, but we had all kinds of things in the office, hitting melons with bats just to get sounds, cool crunchy sounds of things.
Yeah.
It's funny, like now there's like such expansive libraries of sounds that,
right.
you don't get these crazy scenes anymore in, in the office trying to make cool sounds. And I told you I was going to tell you the story of how Harrison Ford is related to Diablo 2.
Yes, I would love to hear this.
Okay, and here is how it is. So some people know the first part of the story of Deckard Cain, the Elder, and how that NPC came to be. And it turns out that our marketing department down at Blizzard decided a contest while we were making Diablo 2 where the winner of the contest would get to have an NPC named after. And like we'd find out these things, it was the marketing department.
Right.
Consult with. They said, "Hey guys, you got to name one of your NPCs after a contest winner." Oh, okay, all right, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
We'll figure, like it'll be like, I don't know, it'll be like John Smith. And we'll
right.
We'll put him out in the corner somewhere. Nothing.
You'll walk up and be like, "Who's this guy?" Okay, whatever.
Right. So we get the winner, and here we look at the card, and the guy's name is Deckard Cain Elder. And so Cain was actually his middle name. His full name was Deckard Cain Elder.
What an
and
awesome
we were like,
name.
Yeah, we were like, holy shit, we couldn't possibly come up with a better name than that.
Right.
Yeah. So this is going to be the main NPC.
Right.
Because that's by far the best name we could come up with. Of course, we put the in, make him Deckard Cain the Elder.
Yep.
And so, but when we find out later that it turns out that it was the guy that entered the contest, it was his kid's name, and so it was this little 8-year-old kid who was Deckard Cain Elder, was he entered on behalf of his kid, which is funny when you think now, like he has to, what's your name? He has to introduce himself as Deckard Cain Elder.
Deckard Cain Elder.
Yeah, it's like people would be like, come on, that's not plausible. But Deckard Cain the Elder, I read later, actually fairly recently on some Reddit thread. The kid himself was named after Rick Deckard from Blade Runner.
Okay.
Because the father was a huge fan of the movie, and of course that was played by Harrison Ford. So Deckard Cain Elder was Deckard Cain the Elder in Diablo, indirectly named after Harrison Ford's character in Blade Runner.
Wow.
So it's it's the strange connection between Harrison Ford and Diablo 2.
That is awesome.
Yeah, but totally funny. Oh, and you know what? There was another guy there was actually 2 winners of the contest.
Okay.
And
the other guy didn't have a cool name, so he got lost.
Well, no, it was kind of a cool name because it's in the game now, and I wonder if anyone in the chat knows who that was.
All right, let's see. We can give them a second. Does anybody in chat know who the second contest winner was that got their name in the game?
It was another distinctive name, and it was an item. It was named after him.
Wirt. They're all saying Wirt. Griswold.
Yeah, no. None of those.
Duriel. I'm doubting that one.
Yep. Okay, no one's going to get it. You'll never guess it if you go on. So it was, the guy's name was Messerschmitt, and so it's Messerschmitt's Reaver, I think it was.
Nice.
In the game. But yeah, just another like super distinctive name. We
right.
got very
you were expecting
very unique
John
names.
and Dan or something, and you got Messerschmitt and Deckard Cain Elder.
Deckard Cain Elder. What is that? The coolest possible name.
I would have never believed anybody's 8-year-old kid in 1990X was named Deckard Cain Elder. No way. No chance. No chance.
He's had to live his whole life with that now.
I mean, I'm jealous. Honestly, I wish I could be named after Diablo 2. So those were the only 2 contest winners that got their names in.
Yeah, they were the only 2. They were the only 2.
Okay.
And now I guess Deckard Cain has made his way into Heroes.
Yes, that was a recent addition.
That was a recent addition. So the legend, that poor kid will be tormented. I guess he's a grown now. They'll probably make a movie in 20 years.
The movie of Deckard Cain.
He'll never have peace in his life.
All because his dad put
Yeah,
his
his damn
name
dad
down
entered a stupid
for a
contest.
stupid contest. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you got Schaefer's hammer, though your brother would, claim otherwise.
He will falsely claim otherwise. Yes.
What other names? What other people's names got thrown in?
Oh gosh, there's a million of them. It's gonna be hard to remember them now. There was Cyverb's Cudgel.
Yep.
Is just Brevik backwards.
Wow. I almost feel stupid for never realizing that in my entire life.
By the way, have you checked out It Lurks Below, his new game yet?
Yes. People actually wanted to hear
cool.
your opinion on It Lurks Below and side scrollers overall as well.
Super fun, super cool. He's actually, I'm a little mad at Dave right now. A couple guys in our office who kind of obsessively play It Lurks Below when they should be working. So, but yeah, that's looking pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
I love, like I say, I loved Minecraft. I never really got into Terraria, but I thought that looked pretty cool. But like this is, every time I see it, it's come a long way from the last time I saw it.
Right.
It turns out that Dave Brevik lives like 4 blocks away from me. And,
you just found this
we get
out.
together from time to time and drink way too much scotch.
Okay.
And
that's
so I've gotten to see it kind of in all of its iterations from the very beginning. And so it's pretty exciting to see it coming to where it is now, where people are starting to play it. It's actually starting to get a little bit of buzz.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. It was a really fun game. I played it 3 days ago. I think 3 days ago, something like that.
Yeah.
It was.
It's pretty deep. I mean, it's pretty deep game.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happens in that game,
yeah.
as I found out because I look at my damn employee playing it all day. Every day.
Walk by and go, get back to work.
Yeah, like, come on, man. Yeah, but keep going for a while so I can watch.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, at least kill the next boss first, and then then turn it off.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone has asked in this thing, why is David not with you guys now? Well, we're still trying, man. We're still trying to get him on board.
Yeah, because I mean, right? He is the sole developer of It Lurks Below, right? He is.
Yes, it is a true one-man shop.
True one-man shop, which is crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And it beats. So my brother quit Runic quite a while before I did because we used to work together forever.
Right.
And he started a new company with one other guy, and they were a 2-man company called Double Damage, and they made a game called Rebel Galaxy recently, and but that's 2 men, so that's literally Brevik's thing is twice as impressive.
Right. Brevik was like, no, I'll show you how it's done. You only need one person for every single thing ever.
Yes.
Yeah,
and he's done everything, like the music, the sound, and everything.
That's so crazy. That's just that's mind blowing. I mean, to be able to develop an entire game by yourself, every single piece of it.
By yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, actually, that's not true though, because he did get a little help on some art from his daughter.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. Now it's not as impressive anymore. That's it. Complete cheating.
Yep. His 14-year-old daughter has contributed.
That's great.
She probably is entitled to royalties of some sort.
Yeah. She gets a little bit. She'll just be in the will, and that'll be, that covers it or something.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
She at least gets to have an NPC named after her, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I've seen a few people that have things in the game already that beta tested and things like that. So it's interesting.
Oh yeah. It'll be full of that stuff. But yeah, it's really cool to see that that's going to happen. I mean, that's going to come out and it's going to be great. People are going to love it. So
right.
Pretty fun to watch.
Right.
And yeah, and it gives us all hope that like we could, if all else fails, we could just hole up in a closet and make our own thing, and it's at least plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, that's literally impossible. I could not do that, but it gives me hope.
I think if you eventually got there, if you put yourself in that spot. But yeah, you guys should get him with you. That's all.
Get the whole band back together.
Get the whole band back together.
Yep.
If you want to build even more hype. I mean, there's already enough hype just in our chat for what's coming up here, but yeah, you had David.
Well, I look forward to where we can actually do real hype.
Yes, true. Where you can actually say what it is and talk.
I can talk about it.
Yeah. The thing, the game. Okay, so few questions from my side for some Diablo pieces. Okay. One, who decided to build the jungles the way that they are in Act 3. And the fact that the Spider Forest will sometimes skip the Great Marsh and connect to the Flare Jungle, and other times not, and things like that. As a speedrunner, I die.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of debate on the jungles and the way they were, and they were actually a lot more punitive at one point than they ended up in the game. You know, there was long kind of dead end strips that you'd have to backtrack way down.
Gosh.
And they're kind of that way now, but like they were way worse.
Right.
But you know, really it was like we just kind of went for a visual target before you start to actually lay out the level and get the random algorithms working.
Sure.
And so, you know, the idea was just that it would be cool. It's hard to do a kind of a thick rainforesty level because it's crowded, and then you have to make your way through with a machete.
Right.
And so our idea was like really the levels would be about running around the riverbeds, you know, and the banks of the rivers, and the little towns and things that are on those. And then someone came up with the cool idea: is you make almost an impenetrable wall of vegetation, and then the little tiki guys could jump out of the little holes in there, and it'd just be a great way to spawn monsters into the level. And so, you know, it all just kind of, I like to think that we had grand plans for what it would mean for speed running down the road, but
I mean, that wasn't even a thing back then. Yeah.
It wasn't even a thing. Yeah. So it was really just about making areas that were funner to run around in and hit monsters in.
That's fair.
But that one was a little bit controversial because kind of the way it goes together, and also just kind of the way it's laid out. Like, you do some backtracking.
Yeah, there's a lot of backtracking that goes on there. That's true.
Yeah, but it was still pretty fun though. It was still, I still think that it was a cool looking level. It was so different than the other stuff we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
But there was definitely controversy. I think most of that level was built by Ben Boos.
That's the guy. All right, write his name down. We got it. So I will actually say I like as a speedrunner, I hate it because you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get a skip or not. I don't know if I'm going to, which side I should be on, which path is the right one, which one. But I actually do think the design is pretty cool, and I like the monster types within it and all of that stuff. I just have to throw my speedrunning hate at it because
I understand now that would be trouble.
It's
sorry about that.
That and the Arcane Sanctuary, when you get there and go, I guess I'm guessing. Yep.
So what I did like about the jungles too is it was one of the few times that we really sort of got together between the main creatures that were going to be there and the level team, so that they kind of worked together.
Yeah.
The rest of the time it's sort of like just, hey, we got a bunch of monsters, let's throw some out here.
Put them in a random place and let them go.
Yeah, and just let them go. And so by the time, that was again late in the game. We're making Act 3, late in the game.
Right.
And by that point we were like, hey, maybe we should make monsters that actually fit the environment, that sort of stuff. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then the idea of the two guys standing on the shoulders and all that, it was, we definitely were having some fun at that point.
That's good. I did a drawing of the little guys. Here's my, you can see it. They were my little tiki guys.
Oh, the video's a little bit behind for me here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice.
That was on my 30-second
awesome.
drawings that we had. Okay. Another question. The gem. Is this just the trolliest thing that you guys could have thrown in the game?
Yeah, totally trolly. We had so much fun talking about the gem. There was actually times where we entertained the idea that it would actually do something.
Right.
And then we decided it's just enough that once every a billion times it says something different.
Yeah, the perfect gem activated, and then you freak out.
And then everyone's like, what does it mean?
Yep.
So it was great, and just seeing people kind of have fun with it. I think everyone kind of intuitively knew it didn't do anything, but kind of wanted to believe.
Right.
And that was pretty fun. That was cool.
Are there other big trolls that you guys threw into the game, similar to that, or in a different regard? Things that you just were laughing about. You're like, we got to put this in because it's just gonna screw with people.
Yeah, I think those were the big ones. I mean, we at one point, I don't think it made it into the final game, or we took it out or something. But is there still a name reversal shrine? Did that
No,
ever
the
go in?
Shrine of Veneers. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah,
Oh, that was
yeah.
it's so sad. It's in the
That was
files, but it's not in the game.
okay. Didn't That's right, because people were just like too mad in the game, but we thought it was so fun, and it was just like, wait, what? How do I make it go back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but then people are gonna be really mad about that. And you're like, yeah, that's the point.
Right. Right.
And I think that it was, we were convinced not to put it in.
Oh, dang.
I think we should have still though.
Dang, that's so.
Because I mean,
I think you should.
it would go back. It would go back if you found another one.
Right.
So eventually you could
get your
it back.
name reversed again by Yeah, I think now the way the shrine generation works is if you find that shrine, it'll change into a gem shrine. I believe
Right.
that's the interaction that they gave it.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I was so sad when I saw that, and I was like, it's not in there. Oh my gosh, I wish it was.
Yeah. I mean, we had the same sort of discussions about like hardcore mode, whether like it was actually too hardcore. Like, are people just going to be, even though everyone understands that these characters die when they die,
Right.
are people going to still be pissed?
Right. Right.
And we actually had some serious debate about that.
Interesting.
And
was there
finally we said,
hardcore?
okay, look,
Was there
yeah.
hardcore before that in another game, or were you guys kind of the real inventor of hardcore, or bringing it to mass market?
There were a lot of games that you would die.
Right.
But in an action RPG roguey like game like this,
Yeah.
or certainly in an RPG, I don't know. Actually, I'm sure that maybe one of those text-based ones like Angband or Moria or one of those things had a mode like that. Because they had so many weird things. But I don't specifically know of.
Okay.
Let's pretend it was the first. Let's pretend
right.
we were the first people to do that.
We'll call it the first one. First one's invented. Yeah.
There are a lot of firsts in that game that are kind of now industry standards, like the question mark over the NPC heads and stuff.
Yep.
That was Diablo invented.
Yeah. Nice. So, well, I'm glad that you kept hardcore in, and I'm sure every day you can wake up and enjoy the tears of all of the people around the world as their hardcore characters die. Still to this day, we have people losing them left and right.
I still play. When I play Torchlight, it's only hardcore.
Only hardcore.
It's kind of the only hardcore, because it's the only way to make it, make you really pay attention and dig in.
Right.
So I'm a hardcore fan still.
Yeah.
I think that I'll try to work hardcore into whatever, however it fits into whatever games I make from here on out.
Yep. That's a lot of people. I'd say they get to be if I'm not playing hardcore, why even bother playing the game? If I can die and respawn, man, it's not worth it. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah, that's for the masses.
Yeah, exactly.
The fragile masses.
Exactly.
No, that's the late thing for me. Is hardcore. I got to play it with the regular, because there's no way I'm going to see all the content unless I play regular first.
Right. So I don't know where you're at with time, how much time you have left for chatting, anything like that. If you need to go now, you can. But I'd like to field some questions from chat.
Yeah, I got a little bit longer, so let's take some questions from the crowd.
All right, chat. What do you got in there? I saw one before that said, "What about all of these hacks that have come out and mods and things like that?" Right? You've got the obvious things like your map hack and stuff like that, but additionally you have things like plugin mod, you've got your Median XL, you've got Rising Sun. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Have you looked at any of those? What are your thoughts on those sorts of things?
To be honest, I'm not horribly aware of them at this point. I think that they are probably at least partially there to compensate for the fact that there isn't anyone working on the game, and there isn't ever going to be anyone working on the game anymore. But there are needs that the current players and the way you guys are playing it have. So to the extent that it's enhancing the enjoyment of doing speed runs and things like that, I think they're pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a blanket acceptance of any hack and mod, because they can also be destructive to the community.
Right.
I think at this point in the game, most of the players are there to do kind of cool things like speed runs and hardcore runs and of any kind, and are playing it different ways than we didn't even think that people would do like Mephisto runs. That wasn't in the consciousness of us at all.
Right.
And so people are totally playing it differently now. And given that, we totally would have, as developers, had adapted to that and kind of run with it, because there's cool things there.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's only natural that some people have kind of taken it into their own hands and done some of the things that we should have done. Maybe.
Sure. Okay. What about the removed uniques? Because there's a pair of boots, and there's a ring, and there might be maybe like one more.
That were, you mean removed before release?
Yes, there's like 2 or 3 uniques in the game that never came out. One is a ring that's like 100 all resistances or something. I forget what it is, and another is a pair of boots.
Yeah, things like that happen because there was something unbalanced about them, or they had some feature that was, or some attribute that was buggy, that rather than again, towards the end of the project, you start to make cuts on things. Like, do we really want to keep working on the damn one pair of unique boots is buggy, whatever?
Yeah. Or
do we just skip it? We got it. We have enough uniques. And so that's what those are. And just because we're also a little bit sloppy, the assets never really fully got.
They just kind of stayed in there. Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Programming language of choice on game development.
For me, I am not a programmer, so I like to use the tools available in things like Unreal these days. But when we started, this is a much better question for Brevik. But when we started, he was all assembly, and then it became C++, C#.
Yeah. All assembly at the start. Oh my gosh,
it was crazy back. It was crazy back in the day. Assembly code, I don't know, like I can look at code nowadays and can pretty much tell what's going on. I'm not a coder.
Assembly code.
Be very clear about that. But assembly code, nothing.
Yep.
Like literally nothing. And
little
David Brevik could,
three digit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And Brevik could like speed type assembly code. I don't know. It was like the superpower.
That's amazing.
And so one of the early games we were making was this Game Boy football game. We did the Quarterback Club, which was it was the competing game to Madden football at the time. And we made the Quarterback Club. We did two years of it for Game Boy and Game Gear. But the first year, we didn't have any sort of development system for the Game Boy.
Yep.
And there was no emulator or anything. And so literally he would speed type assembly code, and we would burn a chip for each build and plug that chip into the Game Boy and see if it worked.
Wow.
And so the entire production of this game was him madly speed typing assembly code, burning a chip, which sometimes the burn didn't even work, and so you don't even know if that's why.
Right.
So you had to burn it again just to make sure that what the problem was.
Oh,
and it was completely and totally absurd, and it was only because Brevik could speed type assembly code that it ever got done.
How far we've come since those days.
Yeah, totally.
Will you be at PAX Prime, and will you be demoing your game there?
It is possible. Again, there's a lot that we kind of decide at the last minute.
Schedules and times and things like that.
That is I would say that it's a decent possibility that we'll be there.
So I should get some PAX Prime tickets, is what you're saying.
Maybe. I don't want to promise anything.
Yeah, no promises, right? It's just potentially.
Yes, we're sort of internally targeting that as a goal.
Yeah. There you go. D2 Remastered. Any thoughts on if that's a thing? That would.
Yeah, guys, I don't get your hopes up for that, because it would be super, super hard to
remaster that a game that runs at 25 FPS and 800 by 600.
I mean, the assets are not upscalable. It would have to be completely remade from scratch. And it wouldn't be remastered; it would be basically redone completely,
right?
For it to work, and it's probably not worth the effort. It may one day be worth. I mean, it may be worth the effort to just. I mean, Blizzard has $1 trillion, so they could totally afford to put together a team to just literally remake it. You could even remake it partly with the D3 assets and use that engine, but just emulate every little bit of timing and feel and the level types. You could pop those levels together pretty fast these days.
Yeah.
But it would have to be literally remade from scratch, and then just like meticulously studying the way it was in Diablo 2 and the way it felt, because if it isn't, even if it's good, it's just not going to feel right.
Right.
It isn't, no one wants, people want a modernized and updated D2. They don't want to take on D2.
Right. Right.
And so it's just super, super hard.
Yeah.
So my guess is that there probably won't be a.
They would just create a new Diablo game or something.
Yeah, they're not done with the franchise, but and I don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming that they're not done with the franchise. But my guess, just knowing Diablo 2, is that there's no way it's going to be remastered.
Okay. Hardest thing you had to work on while making Diablo 2?
Boy, it's again so much at the beginning of these types of games that everything was made up from scratch, and figuring out network bugs that are almost impossible to reproduce, but when a million people are playing, it's going to be crippling. It was super hard. We didn't really have good debugging tools and our customer support tools. We barely had a bug tracking software, and so it was just super hard to it's such a complicated game, just like reeling all the loose ends together.
Yeah.
To make something working, to some extent, I was like, don't look directly at Diablo 2 because the whole house of cards is going to come crashing down, and nothing will work. So yeah, so it was, a lot of it was just wrangling all the details together, and that's why it was like kind of caught us off guard, because we felt like we were making the stuff at a good enough clip to get it to be done, but then all the polish you have to do in debugging and fixing and rebalancing, and then figuring out that you're using way too much bandwidth, and you got to figure out how to cut that by 75%. And it's like I remember at one point we realized we were making an order of magnitude mistake in how much bandwidth we could take up in network messages.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, we have to get it down to 10% of what it's doing now.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that was prior to optimizing it ever, and we were able to actually do it, but it was just like not easy,
Yeah.
and so getting it game ready, getting what looked like it was done to being out was really, really hard. And they say like the first 95% of game development is nowhere near as hard as the last 95%.
Right.
That comes on at the end, and that's totally true. It's just so hard. The difference between a game that was pretty good and a game that we'd be talking about 20 some years later is just kind of that obsessive amount of work you do after it's done, but and your publisher's yelling at you to release it and all this, it's that work you do in that interval that nobody really sees.
Right.
It kind of makes the difference.
Right.
And so that's the hardest part about it. And the lack of sleep and social life and all that wasn't very good.
7 days a week, 24/7. Yeah. And that's
but we've gotten better about that. It turns out that's actually not productive. That's why people quit the industry.
Yeah.
And there's no way you could last that. I mean, it'll kill you.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
So we've gotten better now and we were just better about organizing. We were launched into this Diablo thing from being, kind of just after college stoner guys that were trying to avoid getting real jobs.
Right.
To having to figure out how to manage these empires and it was definitely all seat of the pants, just to kind of make it up as you go, and the best, which fortunately the entire games industry is like that. And still is to this day. It's like everything that was true 5 years ago is false now, and it's been that way from the beginning.
Oh yeah. Who designed the font, and why did they let the number 5 and number 6? How did that go into production? You mean the main menu? Which font? The font for the character for anything in the game where there's the number 5 and the number 6. They look identical.
They look identical. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was just one of our faults. I know we got in trouble because we forgot to license one of the fonts and got in trouble for that. But depending on where it is in the game, we would even sometimes get the outline of a font and then 3D render it and then spriteify it. That, and a lot of times, 5s looks like 6s. That was just bad type design at all.
Yeah. Any games coming out that you are looking forward to, besides your own, of course?
Yep. It Lurks Below is coming out. That's going to be super cool.
Mm-hmm.
The Rebel Galaxy guys are working on their next thing. They haven't announced it yet, so I can't tell you what it is. But it's super cool, and it's along the same lines as their previous thing.
Okay.
Um, and that's going to be awesome. That's also going to be not too far off. Things that are coming out. I can't say anything about the Unknown Worlds guys thing, but that's going to be cool. But that's further down the line. Yeah, other than that, people are super secretive about what they're making. So I don't, and we've also been sort of cocooned and setting up our new company. So I've sort of lost touch with the world again, which is why I was happy you called me, because I can kind of engage with the world again for the first time. So I kind of find out about things the same way you guys do when they come out, or when they start letting people stream them.
Right. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we have in here. One person asked, you brought up trying to work a lot on MMOs, MMO ideas. Are there any that were big back then, or even now, that you're interested in, or what's kind of your favorite MMO? Let's go with that.
Favorite MMO. Okay, so I'll disclose that I have not played. I was never super immersed into MMOs.
Okay.
However, I've watched a lot of them and got a little bit in. But I think that probably the best one, I consider almost the granddaddy of MMOs, online. And it was all because of just the emergent anarchy that went on in that game. That was kind of nothing like the designers wanted, or anything.
Right.
But it was just so cool the way it came out, and the way people figured out how the world works and what that meant to gameplay. And a lot of times it would have very profound effects on gameplay. Like you could put your ship's ramp out and jam it into someone's castle door and somehow get into their place. There's all kinds of weird things, and just enormous amount of crazy griefing and
right.
PK, which given its sort of anarchic environment was totally appropriate, it felt like to me, for that game. Like that was the game.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that they tried to reel that in a little bit and kind of try to focus it back to where they wanted you to play like.
Yep.
And kind of, I'm sure that they had a lot of people complaining about it, but I think that in the end they sort of neutered what was cool about it, which was that just Wild West,
right?
God knows what's going to happen next, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think to some extent, a lot of us would like to visit that, make a sandbox with cool graphics that something can emerge out of it that's fun like that. And it's really hard to do that. It's if you make a game for people to PK, then it's just too contrived, and it just lacks the magic and the tension and all that. It's like, well, yeah, he killed me because he went online and figured out the best build.
Right.
So it was different in the Ultima Online days. It felt like the Wild West, and I would just love to somehow kind of capture that.
Okay, that's a good answer. Do you have a little more info on how the drop system was designed for Diablo 2, and then kind of it being balanced maybe a little bit more around multiplayer than single player, or that sort of stuff?
Gosh, just first of all, it's been a lot of years, and I've done a lot of games, including with Brevik and with the same sort of system since then. So I don't really exactly remember how it all worked. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of iteration of just playing with like what feels good with multi, when there's 4 people in the game versus when there's 1. And I think we actually did a fairly good job of making it soloable or playing with a group and not have anything get too out of whack. And that doesn't come by itself. That's one of those things that's like, if it works, no one really notices, and it just feels like you're playing. But it's a very complex system. What you got to do is you got to get my brother, because he designed the armor systems for all these games. But it's all based on armor classes, and and one of the things, and again, this is one of the differences between Diablo 3 and Diablo 2, is kind of you always had that hope in Diablo 2 that if the next urn you kick is going to pop out that holy grail of an item.
Right.
And it feels like maybe that's a little bit lost in Diablo 3. It's a little more deterministic, It's like you're going to get something that's a little better than what you had, but it's like a little too perfectly balanced.
Right.
We always felt like it should wobble out of balance over time in a sort of contained way. Like, there should be kind of crazy things that happen that are out of whack. And like, I got just way too good of boots for the next about 2 hours of play,
Yeah.
But that's what's cool. That's what's good about it. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes you like stay up late and get into the next room
Right.
and open that next chest, because anytime, even no matter if it's a boss or it's just an urn that you're breaking,
Right.
it could be that holy grail thing. And so like having that sort of excitement associated with finding the items is something that I think anyone who's making these sorts of games should really preserve and protect. It's like, remember what we're here to do. We're not here, to level up your guy to level 99 and then go off and do some weird metagame. I mean, yeah, that's great if you got a good metagame for them to do and fun, and that's super good. But the core of these things is you want to go out with a mallet and hit a skeleton and get a good item,
Yep.
and then build yourself up and get a little bit more badass and hit the little bit bigger monster and get a better item.
Right.
And making that fun and making that the core of what you're doing is why I think the item game works in Diablo, because it was purposefully swung out of balance.
Right.
Either sometimes like, I am really underpowered all of a sudden. Am I an idiot or am I finding good stuff?
Yeah.
And so having that randomness in it, and then making a wide enough system that you could make your characters kind of however you wanted, and you can make weird variants on the classes.
Yeah.
Was also something that was sort of discouraged in Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
Just unlock the next tier, and so everyone really effectively is the same.
Right.
And so I think that was, there's good things about that, but I think that in Diablo 2, it sort of lent a feeling that your path through the game was unlike anybody else's path through the game.
Right.
And I think that's important. Like, I did some weird things with skills and made an incongruous character, but I found some cool stuff and I kicked ass and I beat the game.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever done it exactly like that or had that experience. I think that's something that was, gave it a lot of legs and a lot of longevity, and is different than a lot. I'm not picking on Diablo 3. I think most it's just much more deterministic. Like, people I need to know where I need to farm to get this thing, and I need to know how long it's going to take to get it.
Right.
And for me, that takes kind of the magic out.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's probably one of my favorite things in Diablo 2. And I think a lot of people, and I think that's one of the reasons I love speedrunning it, and a lot of the reason that people come and kind of watch when I speedrun Diablo 2 as well, because they get to sit there and see like these crazy sorts of things, or using random assortments of gear that's like, he should be underpowered, but he's hit all these breakpoints, and so he's able to sneak by through these areas and avoid these guys. There's just, you can get by with enough in the game, that you can do it in a few hours, but at the same time you can always hit that monster, that urn, whatever it is, and get that upgrade to your gear that can just bring you to the next breakpoint or give you a little more resistance or whatever it is. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the game, is how well you're able to play through it solo and play through it with 7 of your friends and still have difficulty, still have whatever it is, right? A lot of games struggle with that, I think, nowadays. Whenever, it's like they balance it around giving enough to that single player, but then you bring multiple people in and it's like, oh, well, now the game's just kind of a mess. It's
totally broken now.
Yeah. Now it's all broken. And so it's like hard to balance it both ways. I think you guys did a fantastic job with that.
Thanks. We actually avoided a lot of the headaches of things like that in Torchlight by giving you instance loot. So you only see your loot and everyone only sees their own loot. So we can really control who's
stealing each other's loot and yelling at each other.
Right. And having to make sure that there's enough out for everybody, and all this sort of stuff. So we just kind of took the whole headache of that out.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Why were some rune words and things like Ubers only implemented online, such as Spirit Shield or Enigma or whatever? I think Enigma is one of them.
No idea.
Fair enough.
Literally no idea why that would be.
That's totally fair.
Unless they have effects that affect your party mates. I don't know if they do or not.
No.
That would be a reason why you would. No, yeah. There's no reason.
They created items that were ladder only, so you could only make them like Spirit Shield, and that's a great example of one. Infinity, I think, is another one that you could only make on ladder, but you couldn't get on non-ladder. And then there were also items you could only find on ladder. I think Griffin's helm, diadem is one of them, things like that. But then they ported the items you could find on ladder down to single player, but they didn't port the rune words that you could make on ladder down to single player. My guess was
Yeah.
that they just forgot to port it and were like, oh well. But
Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't know if you had any knowledge about it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't specifically know though. I mean, we were on the news by then.
What do you think about something like D2JSP?
What's JSP?
Okay, D2JSP. It's a forum where people can go and basically they have their own currency and they can just trade it with items and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that people are just going to do that. You know,
Yep.
they would just do it on eBay back in the day.
Right.
And I think part of the auction house was a response to that. You know, it's like if they're going to trade it anyway and figure it out anyway, we may as well do it in our own secure environment. And then they kind of ran with it where they shouldn't have. But I think that was kind of the idea for that in the very beginning. But people are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I personally, my personal opinion is I don't even like trading almost at all in
Interesting
RPGs like this. Yeah, because
interesting.
I mean, I realize like later on when you're trying to get a character leveled up quickly, sure, but it is sort of cheating. Why not just make it so you can get a leveled up character?
Right. Right.
And let everyone have the fun of finding the. For me, it's like it's much more fun to find a cool item than for someone to just give it to you.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And so let's just have it so you have to find your items.
Yeah.
But then again, I also understand trading, especially in your account. Like, oh, I found something that would be cool for my other character.
Right.
Right. And I already have a shared stash. So come on.
Yeah.
So there's always kind of a balance there. But my leaning is towards not trading, and my personal play is always like, I don't want any help.
Yeah.
I want to have the experience of doing this game and playing it through. Building my guy up normally.
Yeah.
But then I understand, 10 years later, you kind of want just the
I've been through it, just give me the items. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's valid as well.
I actually went the reverse way. When I loved getting all the items, like people giving me the items. I was like, yeah, great. And I loved trading for it and all that stuff. That was like the biggest thing ever. And then now having come back, 15 years later, whatever it was when I started, I don't want to trade. I don't want to be given items. I want to find everything. And I have a character whose goal is literally to find every item in the game. And like finding Tyrael's Might was like one of the greatest joys ever because of the amount of grinding and the amount of energy and everything put into it to get there, and so I can completely understand the like excitement that you can get from finding an item way exceeds that of just somebody gave me a Tyrael's Might.
Well, I would not have imagined that anyone could find every item. So I'm assuming you've maxed out the magic find and all that on this guy.
Yeah, she runs about 800, I think, when she's farming Pindle, and then if she's doing chaos, it's like 500 to 650, and it kind of varies based on different things. But
I didn't even know it went that high.
Yeah, we've done a lot of min-maxing with a lot of these things.
Nice.
Yeah, so I will one question for Tyrael's Might from my side. Why, for such a rare, crazy item in the game that takes, and this is with my optimized farming, takes 2,000 hours to find on average, why is it not that great?
Well, so I was always a little bit upset that there weren't even more rare things. Like I always wanted to turn up the rareness, like another couple orders of magnitude. So like there would be a rumor that there's this item, but no one's really ever seen one. Maybe you knew someone that said they saw one,
right?
And so there's these things kind of exist in lore only almost, so that on those super rare occasions that you'd actually find one, it would just be like you shake and can't say anything for a while. And so I still want to just always turn that up to 100 and just make it even more rare. But at the same time, you can't just make it so you have a stupidly overpowered item. It still has to be in the world and work within the game.
Right.
And my guess with the Tyrael's Might is that we just didn't run the numbers for how it all plays out in the late game.
Gotcha. So you made
there's only a loose relationship between rarity and goodness.
Right. That's definitely true. I saw a good question. The addition of Enigma was a huge shift in Diablo 2. Do you have any thoughts on that and why that became a thing. You know, what was the idea that we have to put this in there?
I don't even remember. I'm just trying to think if I even have any stories about that. You know, I'm older now, and some of it has gone out the backside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't remember anything from making.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
really at all.
yeah, that's totally fine.
That was my biggest fear, by the way. I would get on this chat and people would ask me, "What about this?" And I was like, "I don't even remember that was in the game."
Yeah, I mean, some of them are very specific, detailed questions, and like you said, when you've worked on so many pieces of it, and you know somebody else worked on something else, and yeah, I mean, there's a whole team on that side. So,
well, and consider that we've named and made and designed thousands of swords and guns and skills
over
and all
multiple
this
games and
since this time. So it all sort of blends together.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Why is the stash not account wide? Why was it character specific?
We do account wide stashes now. We did in Torchlight.
Yeah. That's
so
I just wondered. That was a lesson
no
learned, maybe.
Reason. Yeah, for no good reason.
Good enough answer.
Exactly.
Good enough answer. Yeah, if there's, I mean, you're reading chat, so if you see any questions you want to answer, or if you have to go now, I mean, you can just let me know.
Let's do one more.
One more question. All right, I'll let you find it.
All right, I'm gonna just go back through here. I gotta read this later. Let's see. Yeah, I'm skipping all of the questions that are too.
Like, tell us the name of your game.
What made everyone? I like the bad ones. Like, what made everyone from D2 leave Blizzard?
Yeah.
Well, we actually talked about that.
Yeah, that was earlier on.
Let's see. Why did I get fired from Diablo 3? I wasn't fired from Diablo.
No, that was go watch the start of the interview and you'll hear all about that.
Yeah, you'll hear the whole story about that.
Yeah.
It was
There's some people that came in late, so those are their questions.
Yeah. There was that rumor too that we were all fired.
Right.
No. We made the terrible economic career decisions to quit Blizzard right as they were exploding in wealth and power, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see, what do I can think of the esports scene? I think it's super cool. I think we've only scratched the surface of esports. There's like the initial inclination is to think of esports as League and Dota, and then all that's going to be like that. But then I think that's super weird that people would think of it that way, and those are just maybe some of the first big ones. But there will be esports in all forms from here on out forever. I think.
Yeah.
And that'll be cool, and they'll look nothing like they do now and play nothing.
Right.
Let's see, where did the lore came from for Diablo 2? See, this is kind of funny. We actually didn't emphasize or value lore very much. We were into the cool places and items and the gameplay and all that, and a lot of it was driven by the cinematics, and the cinematics were made down south, and at the Blizzard film department. So they had a team that did the cinematics for all the Blizzard games.
Right.
And we would kind of find out what the lore was becoming of our game as we got news of the cinematics. But it was totally in both Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 sort of woven in after the structure of the game was already set.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was Chris Metzen. A lot of it was just working with us in house and talking about what our thoughts were. But it was always sort of grafted on, and I was always kind of pleased that it sort of did stick, and it did feel like it was appropriate for the game.
Yeah.
Let's see. What does the chat gem do? We talked about that.
Yep. That's one thing with streaming. You get a lot of repeat questions as people come and go.
When is 1.15 patch coming out? How would I know that? What is the highest level character I ever had? That is a good question.
Ooh.
I never 99'd one.
Never?
That's a lot of, a lot of people realize when it comes out, it's like, we are so done with it.
Yeah, you just don't touch it. You're like, no more.
Mostly what I did was I'd get in line and I'd chat with, because I played the crap out of it throughout the development.
Yeah.
I got through obviously all the characters and all the difficulty level.
Yeah.
I really didn't go beyond that too Did we design another expansion after Diablo 2? No, we had decided we were going to go into the MMO world with Diablo 3.
No.
It turned out that didn't survive our leaving. And we're doing more than one here, I guess.
Yeah, you're just rolling through as much as you want.
Is there some new ones here? Let's see. Do your kids play Diablo 2? I do not have kids. I have dogs, as evidenced by the occasional barking in the back, and they do not play.
They don't play? Oh, okay.
So all our partners' kids totally do.
Yeah.
Why did Blizzard North disappear? Because we did it when we left. And some of those guys went down and worked down south, to be fair, so it didn't just completely disappear. It's strange how many of those people we still stay in touch with, though.
That's cool.
Yeah, the gaming business is small. You see the same people year after year.
Yep.
It's no one ever leaves, because after you're in games business for long enough, you'd no longer have any other marketable skills that would make you useful in the world.
Right.
So you have to stay in.
You stay in the game. Yeah, you just go back, make another game, and
make another game. That's all we know how to do. If I didn't do that, I'd be basically straight from here to Home Depot. Work in the paint department or something. Could D2 HD happen? We talked about that. I don't think.
Yeah.
Can I come write for your company? We've always been bad writers, so go to our website. It's probably extragamesinc.com or something like that. We barely have a website yet because we're not announced.
Yeah.
It's just like Extra Games. Contact us here.
Coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon. See, what ideas do we have for Torchlight? For D3, it was an MMO. Like I say, it was totally true, like almost traditional MMO, but done with Diablo characters and Diablo aesthetics and controls. It was totally going to be mouse and keyboard. We weren't gonna do WASD.
Right.
Let's see. And we didn't get far enough into it to get very interesting. What's the closest game to the one we are developing and announcing with Ectra? Yes, this is how people get.
They slowly do that stuff. What's the first letter of the title?
Yeah.
How many words is the name of the game?
Let's see. I'll tell you this. It doesn't have a 3 in it.
That's a good hint.
Diablo 3 MMO would be the dream. Someone puts in. Yeah, we'll have Blizzard contact or something.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do I think of the Path of Exile? We talked about that. Super cool guys. Cool, fun game. They really they went like most games, including us, when we made Torchlight, kind of went away from the dark and grim into a little more colorful. And like we wanted to really distance it from Diablo 2. And they did a good job of kind of like keeping it super gritty and like this is not a pleasant world. You're probably gonna die badly.
Yep.
Favorite class. Okay, so favorite class from Diablo 2 is something I've thought about a lot.
Ooh.
And it changed a lot as we built them and over time. Generally, the first thing I play when I play any ARPG is just the thing that hits with a big weapon, so I can just click on monsters and I don't have to think too much about anything else.
Right.
But I think in the end, for me, in Diablo 2, it was going to be the Paladin. And mostly just because I thought it looked cool, and it just kind of struck me as a bad, and it was like the most kind of traditional knight-looking guy.
Right.
You get the suit of plate armor,
right.
and it looks like plate armor. It's like how do you get the Amazon into plate armor and have it look right? Like you have to make. Yeah. So, so it was like just all of these items and these weapons and these things we're making lend themselves to working with a paladin. So on a purely aesthetic level, that's what I like. At the same time, the necromancer was sort of the opposite, in that like he's like the one guy that doesn't go out for beers in the group after the adventuring is done. Because he's just too weird.
Writes dark poems in his notebook or something.
Right. Right. Everyone else you could see getting a beer, but he's off doing something weird.
Yeah.
But he has the best skill of all time, which was Corpse Explode.
Yeah.
And could summon skeletons and stuff, and so there's literally nothing wrong with that. So those would be my two from that. The Druid and the Assassin were not, from the expansion, did not rise to the level of the original 5 for me, even though I thought they were really good
Mm-hmm.
character types.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a time when the Amazon was my favorite, just because planking monsters is so fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Throwing
it
those
really
lightning
wasn't.
fury jabs, just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and so that struck. That was my favorite for a while. But I think if I had to pick one, it's going to be the Paladin.
I like it.
Just on aesthetic run. Now, if I'm doing speed runs or something, I would optimize for that, and that's a whole different question. But it's just kind of a favorite thing. That would be my favorite.
Right.
I don't know why. What's yours?
My tops go. Paladin got overdone for me. I do like the Paladin, but he became like too good. Right? You could make like so many different builds, and they were all just really strong, and everybody had a Paladin, and they were the best. So I was like, oh, it's too good. So for me, I think it was Sorceress, Barbarian, or Amazon. I kind of bounced between those three. I love the Sorceress because I love playing wizards in games and mages, and she's got the whole glass cannon thing down to a T.
Yeah.
The Barbarian, I'm like you. The first time I play a game, a lot of times I just get on a tank. I just want to run up and just mindlessly smash with with a club or something, and so I love that. And I love, my favorite thing about the Barbarian now is that with speedrunning, the most optimal speedrun build for the Barbarian is Warcry, where you literally just yell monsters to death, because hitting in the game is so difficult when you're under-leveled and when you don't have attack rating, and when you're playing a speedrun, you're both underleveled and have no attack rating, and you can also be frozen, which is terrible.
Right.
So
which is death for a speedrun.
Yeah. So melee skills just go out the window, and so you go, well, what AOE does he have, or what casting does he have? Well, he can yell and stun monsters and damage them, and that became the thing to do to get him through the game. Yeah. So you just run around, and for hours you just yell loudly over and over again, and it just becomes the silliest run ever, and you're like, this is the complete opposite of what you think a barbarian would go out and do.
Right. It's not touching anything.
Not touching a thing. Just goes out, is holding 2 wands that give like plus to mana. It's like the weakest looking guy, and he's just sitting there screaming over and over as he kills everything.
That's awesome.
So that's one of my favorites. And then the Amazon, just because I love the bow. I think there's a lot of cool like bow skills on her, exploding arrow and ice arrow and stuff like that. And then I also love just the lightning fury and stuff, when you throw that and it just spreads, and it's just cool. So those are my top 3.
It's hard to pick though. It's like if I went back to play one, what would I start with? I don't even know.
Exactly.
Probably a sorceress.
Yeah, it's always a good one to start with.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, we can close it down for this time.
Yeah, probably should get on with the weekend.
Yeah, let you get on with your weekend and stuff. But I just want to say thank you so much from my chat. I'm sure they'll spam thanks and love and everything in the chat as well, for coming on and being a part of this and doing this interview. That was fascinating. Everything from Diablo to Blizzard North, to the start of D3 and all of that, to other games. And now we have something to look forward to, which is, the name coming up, whatever it is, you can say if you want.
I'm not gonna say anything about it.
No spoilers, but whatever is coming up next, we are all crazy excited, and I hope the second that you can say something, you send me a message. And
I will for sure.
Yeah, and we can get you on. We can do another interview. We can just talk 100% Game X.
Can't wait.
I can't wait. But really appreciate having you here. If there's any like plugs you want to give here, anything you want to close out with, go ahead.
Oh no, just hey, check out It Lurks Below. Breivik's a great guy, and it's a cool game. So I think that's the next thing that's coming out that's going to be hot. So I'll give that a plug.
Yeah. All right. Well.
All right.
With that, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on. This was really fun. It takes me back. I go years without thinking about it. So this was a lot of fun. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, good luck with the next few months here as you get into crunch time.
All right. All right. I'll see you on the other side.
See ya. Have a good one.
All right. All
Bye.
right. See you later.